to speak a little to Vali now. Vali is the executive director of AASK Foundation. How did you get involved in this organization?
Well, I grew up in the Bay Area and was familiar with the family. And
Had you seen the movie?
I think, yeah, when I was a child, had seen the movie and went off to social work school, so to speak, and got involved in child welfare and gradually worked my way into adoption. Had been working at a county in the adoption department and saw an announcement for an opening at Adopt a Special Kid. And it seemed to have my name written all over it. And that was just about 14 years ago.
Why did that particular organization draw you? I mean, was there something in it that really rang true to you that you wanted to work in that field specifically?
Well, I've always worked in child welfare. I'm just really drawn to it. And I have a basic belief that every child deserves a permanent, loving home. And that really is part of the mission statement of Adopt a Special Kid.
Now, on your website, a lot of it says that children in foster care needing homes. What exactly is foster care for someone? I know that it is taken, where do the children come from, and what do they actually, what living environment is foster care for children?
Well, foster care is a big, big system, but essentially in California, it's a county-run system, and it provides what really should be temporary care for children who cannot be cared for by their birth families. The birth families are usually in the midst of some kind of problem or dysfunction and not appropriately caring for the kids. There's some incident of abuse or neglect, and the children get removed from their homes and put into foster care. So foster care, for the most part, are other homes. It's a home environment with a mom or a dad or both, or a couple moms or a couple dads. And
but it's a temporary solution, supposedly.
Supposedly. That's not always how it works, unfortunately.
And so when a child goes into a foster environment, there's something on your website, only 16% of foster care kids are ever adopted.
Yeah.
And so when they turn 18, what happens?
What happens to those kids, not always a pretty picture. Unfortunately, children who age out of foster care system end up in a lot of less than positive statistics in terms of teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, high school dropout, on public assistance in prisons, things like that. Very high percentage of those kids.
So we see now that the AASK Foundation does specifically target these children to be adopted. Is that mostly just kids that are in that system?
Kids
or
in foster care.
in
yes.
foster care. Now when it says special kid to adopt us, what does special include? What does that mean?
It's a very broad definition. There's actually a federal definition of what a special needs child is, and that's children who are age 3 and over.
Okay.
Who may be part of a sibling group that should be adopted together, of ethnic minority background, have some sort of adverse parental background, which all of these kids, by virtue of being in foster care, do, or may have some kind of emotional, behavioral, medical problem themselves.
Okay. And who is able to adopt these kids? I mean, who is eligible to be a parent?
Any nurturing, stable adult can really come forward and adopt.
So single adults.
Single adults, gay or lesbian adults, traditional families, two-parent traditional families. Really anybody with a willingness to do this. I oftentimes think that people tend to exclude themselves from coming forward for various reasons. I don't make enough money, I don't own my own home, I don't have a partner. They'll never approve me to adopt. And I'd really like to counter that notion. There are so many, many kids that need homes that I really encourage people to come forward.
That's wonderful, especially the same-sex couples.
Yes.
Now, I know that I have a few friends that are like that, are having a very difficult time in adopting, and this is a wonderful alternative because they're welcoming those families, especially also single people.
Yes.
Being able to adopt or not owning your own home, that shouldn't be a factor that keeps you from, and I've actually met some of these kids. They're wonderful, energetic, fun, loving children, and it's really wonderful. Is there a fee?
Not through AASK, not for children who are coming from the foster care system. And really, I think you'll find most agencies who work with that population try not to charge a fee. We'd like to remove any kind of economic barriers to people coming forward to adopt.
And so if somebody does want to adopt and they qualify, there's a big net there that you
Yeah.
can qualify. What is the steps that are taken in order before you and your child, do you get to meet a large group of them, or how is one introduced to the child, and then what are the steps until the child can actually come home with you?
Well, there are different ways to be introduced to a child, but before that, you've undergone a certain amount of assessment. We want to make sure you're healthy and you don't have a certain kind of criminal record. And
Okay.
so you're stable. You're a stable adult. And there's some training that you undergo so you understand what you're getting into about the child welfare system and maybe some of the issues that you might encounter with the kids who are a part of that. And then a document called a home study is written. And so we work primarily from the family end, and then we connect with all the county agencies that have the children. And so there are various mechanisms at that point. Some of the children are actually on the internet. And you could go to the internet today and see some of the children that are available for adoption in the state.
And what is this, how do we get to this site?
I think it's CaliforniaKidsConnection.org.
Okay, and what is your website, by the way, for ASK?
For ASK is AASK.org.
Okay, great. We actually have a few pictures here, if we can bring those up on the screen and take a peek, just to let us know a little bit about what we're seeing up here.
Yes, these were some pictures that were just taken. We just happily and proudly celebrated our 35th anniversary last month. And the first few shots here are of our DeBolt Scholarship recipients for the year. And DeBolt, you probably get the inference there. These are some pictures from a wonderful, supportive family resource that we run called Camp Always, and that happens in June of every year. And
Now that is the camp, I believe I read, where the children get to experience a camp kind of activities where the parents are going for training in order to learn how to best work with their children and to deal with things that come up as a parent.
absolutely, there are three main goals for camp. One is respite. We do provide some free time to the parents where their kids are taken care of and having fun. We provide some educational experience for the parents while they're there, some skill building activities. And a lot of it is really community building. And I think really that's the most fascinating part that happens up there. There's a group of families that come. They may or may not have known each other before, but by the end of 5 days, their kids are all best buddies. And the parents know how to contact each other once they leave. And it's just a really great experience for them where they're in an environment where they're not odd, because that can happen to some of the families.
Right.
You have children that don't necessarily look like you, or behavior sometimes is kind of interesting. And so here they're in an environment where everybody is the same.
Speaking of aid and help, our viewers, anyone that's watching, how can you get involved? Their donations are always welcome, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
And also volunteers.
Yes.
What does a volunteer do?
You know, right now we're really looking for members of the board.
Okay.
It's annual board election time, I guess, in January of every year, and so we're looking to increase our board membership. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We'd like to share that among a few more bodies. And so definitely need board volunteers if anybody is interested.
Wonderful. So you know where to go. I believe we have the website up at the bottom of the screen right now, so there's no excuse. Go out there and donate if you can, donate well if you can, and if not, then please come volunteer. It's a wonderful organization. I want to thank you both very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on SF Live. Good night.